And we are live. My name's JP Berg, and this is episode 34 of The Philosopher, the Stoic, and the Teddy Bear. I'm joined, as usual, with my co-host, Peyman Askari. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
And we actually had Kris for a moment. Kris is in a hotel, and the internet connection was poor, so we thought it would be best where he was glitching out to continue without him. So today we will be discussing the human rights tribunals and the military-based immigration into Canada. So as far as the legality around the human rights tribunals go, I did a little bit of research. What's your knowledge of this, Payman?
Um, I I wouldn't call it knowledge, but my understanding is that these tribunals are so you have a court system in Canada. Our courts are technically under the executive. It's not like the US where it's clear cut,
Mhm.
but the spirit is the same. There's an understanding under British common law that the courts are independent. Then, bit by bit, they started creating these executive uh, adjudicating bodies. So, it's executive courts. The Human Rights Tribunal is one. There's ones for property, like tribunals governing property tax. There's definitely one for the workers' compensation tribunal in BC, and they're lazy ass kangaroo courts, in my opinion.
And essentially, these courts operate. There's several justices, and they have final say over everything.
You know what? I actually don't know. That's a good point. I don't believe there's like a jury, but I do know that they don't observe the same rules of justice. Like you're not necessarily entitled to cross-examine your accuser. Sometimes you don't know what you're accused of. You're not entitled to see what the evidence is, and if you can't afford a lawyer, one won't be provided for you.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. The legal system in Canada has some systemic flaws anyway, just relative to the costs associated. Common people obviously don't have access to the same quality of representation that other people do. But I mean, these things are just to a whole different level. And as far as my research indicates, which was totally minimal, I'm certainly not an expert in this subject matter, but they're entirely constitutional. I mean, in name anyway, that's how it's being presented. But it does, I agree with you. It seems like something out of a banana republic.
I mean, it's constitutional in that the Constitution creates the legislature, and the legislature has created the executive, and the executive has created these kangaroo courts, tribunals. Let's be honest. Um, but I mean, it goes against the spirit of common law. Like
Mhm.
this is not about the letter of the Constitution; it's about the spirit.
Yeah, it's seeming to be weaponized in a political regard too. I mean, that's everything you're hearing is relative to, I hate to use the term, but like this woke stuff. Like it's gender pronoun enforcement, it's First Nations stuff. It's seemingly used exclusively for that reason. It's almost like a struggle session from the state.
You know, imagine you're playing Monopoly, and in the game Monopoly, when you pass go, you get $200. So now it's me and you, and there's two other girls. Me and you, we might band together if you're the bank, and we might say, no, we're not giving you your $200. You know, girls have cooties. It could have just as easily been the other way around if the girls had the bank. What I'm trying to say is it could just as easily have been like white supremacist, hardcore Christian nationalists that took over the human rights tribunals, and then it would have gone the other way. It's just that we unfortunately we live in this world where the progressives have taken it.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is a systemic issue. This is like the fact that they can operate in this regard is definitely not benefiting Canadians presently. But that's Canada in general. I was talking to Jonathan Bahai earlier, and we were on the topic. Like, I don't think. Well, in fact, I know for a matter of fact that most Canadians in the electorate they don't understand how our system works. Like they don't even seem to have a rudimentary conception of how our constitutional monarchy operates.
Yeah, but think of it this way. I don't know about you, but 6 years ago, I had no idea how things worked. 6 months ago, I didn't really understand fully how it worked. I thought the monarchy was just evil incarnate. But I mean, in a functional society, aristocracy, it can work if the monarchy is, a stopgap, a measure to prevent the excesses of the legislators. But my point is, it's easier for them to just watch Netflix.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal, but it's again, and we get to this theme frequently. It's like the education level of the electorate, and I'm with you, Payment. I didn't understand um, the how it worked until I started looking into it, and it's pretty odd that two relatively intelligent Canadians didn't really know. Like we weren't even. I wasn't aware. Like, oh, I'm horribly underinformed. Like I wasn't walking around with that conception knowing that like I'm not it's almost like relative to the conditioning. Like shouldn't we know this? Shouldn't we have been taught this?
Like they should do an experiment. Go ask a couple of hundred random Canadians, what is the difference between the Canadian form of government and the American form of government, and just watch them struggle to try to answer that.
Yeah, it's again it's shocking. That's what I say. I hear so many people will say like, "Oh, what are we going to do?" Like I'm making my posts. My posts are definitely a little sensational. I'm literally endeavoring to wake people up. And they'll say like, "Oh, we're all awake. Like what do we do?" And it's like you're not though. I mean, in this echo chamber on social media, perhaps everyone's, tired of hearing the same thing, but go to a mall. Go to anywhere where people are gathered and just quiz people. Like people haven't they're entirely complacent to what's occurring. I don't know if it's again like some cognitive dissonance or they're just afraid to look at it. But your average Canadian has no idea what's going on right now. It's really bad.
It doesn't even have to be a mall. Like day-to-day interactions with people that you would consider friends or acquaintances, like when you go to file your taxes, your accountant,
Mhm.
when you go to refile your articles of incorporation for your business, your lawyer, when you go to a family dinner, your family, your barber. Try having these conversations with them. They'll think you're insane.
Well, it's you see the programming too right away. Like they're hesitant to have any deviation from like that very like prominent narrative that's established. Like they don't even want to have an opinion. So I mean, it really keeps people in line, and it goes to show how easily that can be accomplished. Like just the social pressures of towing a lot of these narratives. Like I stand by this statement. I've said this before. I'm a firm believer that most Canadians, they might not admit it, but they don't think that when a man has a surgical procedure that man is now a woman. I really don't think that. I think very few in the population truly believe that, but it's astounding how many people will toe that line. It's like we're in the totalitarian state. It's predicated on a lie, and everyone's afraid to push back against it.
I like how you framed it. You said Canadians that they've been conditioned to not have an opinion. I explain it in a more clunky way where I say Canadians, like, they would rather be wrong than be mean. But I
Mhm.
like the way you put it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mad. They're afraid to be impolite. They really don't want to talk about relevant political issues because it's in poor taste. And Canadians, that's one of our biggest flaws, man, is this superiority complex that a lot of Canadians have. And this was something that was really substantiated by like the CBC and that neoliberal programming that we all got. Like there's an arrogance amongst Canadians relative to Americans. It's just like, well, we're not crazy like them. We always put ourselves above them in some regard. And this is something like I've noticed going back to my childhood. All of the adults when I was young would say that, oh, it's those crazy Americans. I would frequently hear sentiments like that conveyed.
Buddy, I would remortgage my house and use that money to smuggle myself into Mexico and try to just to see the look on the face of those elbows up liberal boomers, liberal voters when they have to rely on a US Marine to save their ass right now in Mexico.
Yeah, it's really popping off in Mexico. I didn't get to watch that episode you did with is it Daisy or Darcy Media?
Dacey, Chris Dacey.
Daisy, yes. Is correct me if I'm wrong. Is does he have something to do with that?
No, he's mostly covering the ostrich farm. and that's his sort of claim to fame. He went from Ontario to the ostrich farm.
I think I'm totally mixing him up with someone else.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. The guy with like the graying beard. He was on
Yeah, yeah,
Jason
yeah,
James's
yeah.
show. I forget his name. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
good guy.
I seen that just coincidentally he was there. I seen it through Jason's post, I believe now, come to think of it.
Yeah, he's a good journalist. Unfortunately, he's stuck down there. I think they got a handle on the situation, but that's got to be terrifying, man. Imagine if your parents are there and you're watching this.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good time to be traveling to South America. Like any of these countries, like it's a little politically tumultuous presently. I wouldn't go anywhere near there.
You know, there's just one Mexican in the audience. Probably he's fuming. He's like, "How dare you call Mexico South America?"
Yeah, that's very true. Good point. I apologize to the Mexican viewership.
Yeah, it's I was watching that gentleman who okay, let's talk about this right now. That gentleman who apparently shoplifted with a Canadian bag. You saw that video?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's a video of this. There's looters looting a convenience store because I guess they're panicking, and the guy, he's holding this bag that's got this massive Canada flag on it, and I'm like, why don't you just leave breadcrumbs back to your apartment, bro?
That's amazing. Yeah, it's funny. People it seems like they're just waiting for an excuse to loot. You see it occur in urban areas even when like a sports team wins. It's like, oh, the local sports team won. Let's loot some stores. It's just something within the urban mind.
I'm from British Columbia, so every like 10 years we have one hockey riot, and we're very proud of it.
Claim to fame. So as far as the human rights tribunals go, I just basically have conjecture and opinion. I don't really have much more to offer. Do we have any questions that are relevant? I can't see them anymore.
No, I mean, as usual. Oh, you can't see them? You're
No,
admin.
I don't think I am.
Oh, I removed you as admin. While I try to edit that, and probably tank the entire stream in the process. Um, what did I? Oh, I was gonna say like the $750,000 for this Neufeld gentleman, and I don't know if you're familiar. Are you? I'll go over the details briefly. He's part of a school, and there's a teacher, and the teacher has a website with the pictures of her like in her underwear in very sexy, provocative positions. And he said, quote, she's basically a striptease artist, which is, I mean, it's to me, it's accurate.
Mhm.
And they arrested him somehow. They dragged him through the tribunals. $750,000.
Yeah, that was something else, man. I made a tweet about that, just commenting on it, saying how Orwellian it is. And John Cleese of Monty Python shared my tweet. It went super viral. But yeah, and that's really shocking for other people to see, like especially Americans. They really push that story because you're starting to see it. I think a lot of Americans do see what they kind of avoided, which they did. If Kamala Harris got in, we would have seen entirely an entirely different world right now. But yeah, it's that's where we're at, right? Like this is nuts. It's again, you got to step back. Like we're so conditioned. We're in the fray in Canada, and this is so normalized. But like this is ludicrous, man. It's being legislated, and it's just enforcement of an ideology. It's pretty scary stuff, man.
So I'm just going to bring up some of the comments. Alice Not Woke says he was a Chilliwack school trustee, and Karen Bondar sued him for defamation and won, and then he appealed, and it turned into $750,000.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I've seen other people discussing this, and there seems to be some dispute. A lot of people are claiming on the other side of this that it wasn't that he was denying transgenderism in any regard. It's that he said something really derogatory towards the person, or like you were saying, share. Some people were saying that he shared images of this person, saying that she was of ill repute. I'll say it politely.
Yeah, well, you know that picture, that music video of Miley Cyrus, I came in like a wrecking ball?
Mhm.
She's basically wearing underwear. I think that's what she recreated. And it's like, I'm sorry, man, you're a high school teacher or you're a teacher. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And he called her a striptease artist, which I think those were the exact words. And she sued him for defamation. And I'm wondering with what he did, what with Kathy Drake calling somebody a groomer and her getting sued personally, where is this going to stop? It's going to get to a point where me and you say, "Oh, you're a loser." Am I going to go to jail for that?
Yeah, it's definitely going that way, and that's what they're endeavoring to legislate is people's subjective feelings relative to your speech. They're throwing away that kind of protected aspect of it. But you think with like the code of conduct with some of these professional bodies, like you look at what the Ontario Psychologist Society did to Jordan Peterson just for having his political views and what they put him through. And then on the same realm, where these codes of conducts and ethics associated with these professional bodies should be concerned with is stuff like that. You don't want high school teachers that are privileged with teaching your children to be, posing in provocative ways online. That's a code of ethic violation as far as I'm concerned.
Um, Randy Hillier, who we will have on Thursday, he put out a very short article on Substack, but it was magnificent. Like he traced everything back to the red ensign. So getting rid of the red ensign, it wasn't just a flag. It was untether yourself from your previous culture. We're going to do this new inclusive multicultural thing through the maple leaf flag. Then he talked about the breakup of the family unit, whereas before you had a single income earner, and usually it's the guy, he would make money and they could afford to buy a house and live debt free. And then fast forward to today where everybody's in debt, the country's in debt and everybody's renting. And then he also touched about like the breakup of society and transgenderism. You're right. It's wholly unacceptable for a teacher to behave that way. If you have a teacher who teaches behaving that way, the children will learn to behave that way.
Yeah, it's disgusting, and there's so many stories coming out of Canada lately that are just disgusting. I seen reports today that the Maid has surpassed 100,000 people euthanized by the state. Like that's our tax dollars, man. That is essentially convincing people to end their lives. I think it's just diabolical, and all of these stories are coming out at the same time, and it's like, how much denial can you have to not realize like we've got a problem, man?
I was talking to my friend in Iran. I thought I'd call them before they shut the country down, and I was trying to explain to them transgenderism, what's going on in Canada, and I just couldn't. Like, I don't even know if there's a word in that language for transgender. And he's like, "What are you talking?" It was embarrassing.
Yeah, these are very they're luxury beliefs that you see in very privileged societies. Like no one thinks about this in parts of the world where there's still some struggle to be had. And I mean, especially in a religious place like a theocracy like Iran. But yeah, it's hard to it's like I keep saying, it's I don't know if I'm conveying myself right. It's like every once in a while it just occurs to me spontaneously, like this is nuts. It's like as if I just walked out of 2010. I have that kind of a feeling when I'm seeing this. It's like this is ludicrous. And that's where we are. It's like it's satire of 15 years ago is reality now. And we're watching it go down, and I don't think anyone really knows what to do about it.
No, look, you're not wrong. It's like you get to a point where you're wondering if everyone is high, and then you're like, wait, maybe I'm high. Maybe I'm the one.
That's the natural conclusion you arrive at when you really start to look into this stuff. And at first, you truly doubt your sanity. Like, am I fucking losing it? Because and the alternative is everyone else is. I think it's safe to say it's everyone else.
Our good friend Peggy is disagreeing with you. She says it's not a privileged society. It's specific to nanny states.
Yeah, it's definitely a luxury belief though, which was the broader point. I agree with that. But I mean, it's I don't know, man. Are you familiar with the Calhoun experiment? I think it's called Universe 22, the rodent utopia experiments.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like overcrowded. They seen phenomena that would occur over these different test groups of rodents that they would put in these utopias, And it was like after so many generations, the first couple generations lived great, and subsequent generations, you've seen homosexuality arise, and he actually coined he called them pretty mice. That was the phase where they would be obsessed with grooming. So these mice, and the women would be killing their babies. So abortion in the mouse world, and transgenderism amongst the mice. Like it's too creepy, the correlations with that and modern society.
Get all these like fat, lazy mice laying around masturbating all day, demanding the more productive mice get all the cheese.
Just looking in the mirror, admiring their mice selves.
There's actually there was a question from somebody. Here we go, JT. If you are in the public sector and you don't bow down to their ideology, you are essentially on the chopping block. There is a lot of wisdom in there, in my opinion.
Yes, and the scariest part about that statement, Peyman, is that it goes without saying. The people that are in these realms now, it's normalized to the extent that they all know the narratives they have to toe. They all know the fake outrage they have to exhibit when someone breaks one of these sacred cows or speaks against one of these sacred cows. It's all really tied in with a lot of the anti-white and anti-Christian bias you see in Canada, and that is very prevalent. It's abundantly clear at this point, and this is just going to have, and we're seeing it's going to have a really detrimental effect.
Well, yeah, the anti-Christian sentiment, that ties back to what Randy Hillier said. Like, this started in the 60s, and they've been doing this and doing this. And I had what's his face, Chris Stacey, on today, and he said it's like that hockey stick kind of thing. It's been getting slowly worse. We're in the last part of it where everything feels like it's being ramped up.
Yeah, we always end up on the conspiracies. So I mean, I gotta say it. The 60s is when it started to happen. Like, I mean, whatever this oligarchy is, whatever the ruling class was after World War II, the power they had was really consolidated after the Kennedy assassination. Seemingly, then they influenced the administration. You really seen that deep state apparatus get out of control, and then corresponding in Canada and through Europe, you've seen a lot of this deindustrialization occur. And the alienation from the identity, like you're right. I've seen a lot of people. I think it was Diefenbaker back in the day. People are sharing his criticisms of that, saying like, this is the national flag. This is representing the nation of Canada and the different nations that comprise this country. And he was saying then, this is taking our identity. It's stripping our identity away from us. And that was at the point you seen we were more essentially the migration started to occur. The multiculturalism was pushed. That was the beginning of the end. I think Randy's spot on in that assessment.
I see somebody's been listening in to Matthew Arrett again. Name dropping Diefenbaker.
Can't help myself.
No, you're right. It's World War II was when they took control of the reins. I think you could trace this back to the East India Company and the City of London, the Rothschilds, but like they were just dabbling a pinky toe with America in the 1860s and the Civil War and the Boer Wars, even World War I, the Bolsheviks. But like by the time it got to Hitler and they basically incubated him, in my opinion. After that, it was 20 years of bullshit culminating in Kennedy's assassination. 10 years, 20.
When you get into Carol Quigley would say they would want power to be balanced. So they would have like the Bolsheviks and Hitler. Hitler was initially brought up by these guys, as Quigley attests to, and they were funded by this Anglo-American establishment. And that was the intention, was to push against the Bolsheviks, to have that kind of, it's like a strategy of tensions type of a scenario, but geopolitically. And I mean, again, it's also out there. There's no way to vet any of this information. But I mean, my biggest thing when I think about this stuff is like, what else could it be? And again, I'll say my common line, because I really wanted to burn it, etch it into people's mind. Like, how is it possible that every single Western democratic nation, all through Europe, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, we're all implementing the exact same policies that are immensely unpopular and just devastatingly detrimental? What are the odds? Well, like, what's another possible framing for that?
I don't know, but I'm just thinking when we don't have Kris to anchor us, we really go down these rabbit holes.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah,
Not
we're
that
gonna get to
Kris
the
isn't here, but I mean that we go a little deeper into the speculative realms.
Yeah. Yeah, man, like these I guess taking it back to the tribunals. So we got Neufeld, 750,000. We got Amy Ham. She said men can't be women. And if people aren't familiar with her case, her College of Physicians dragged her to the tribunal, and the tribunal decided that she has to pay the college $90,000. To add insult to injury, the tribunal's like, yeah, we think this is fair. This is fair. Like this is not fair, and you're not a court.
It's a political agenda being enforced through a government apparatus. And if you can't see that or you're not ready to admit it, that's no fault of ours. It's very evident at this point. Originally what started this lunacy was I can't remember this gentleman's name, but he was a stand-up comedian. And I believe he made some jokes about the gender issue, and they got him first. Like, and that's what they say: the canary in the coal mine is the comedians for totalitarianism. Like, if they're concerned about what some dude is saying in a pub, or as a stand-up comedian in a small venue, then I mean you've got a problem with government overreach.
Now that we're going down memory lane, this gentleman I told you about with the Canadian bag that looted the store, it reminded me of that dentist who went to Africa and he shot a lion. Like maybe he shouldn't have done that. And then they came back, the dentist, they ruined him. Like that was the beginning, one of the first ones of forms of cancel culture.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, I'm not necessarily for killing lions, but I am for people having some liberty. And I mean, if he traveled to a country that allows that, and he followed the laws of that nation, and he wanted to hunt, like who is Canada to then punish someone? Like it's again, you're seeing the politicization of an aspect of our legal system, and it's disgusting to see. And again, it's very evident.
Yeah, there was another older couple. Let's say their 60s. This is in the early 2000s in Toronto. They had a restaurant, and the gay community came to them, and they're like, "Can you put this rainbow flag?" Back then, it wasn't the trans omni flag. Put it in your window, and they said, "No, it violates our Christian beliefs, but anybody can eat here. We don't care about." They ruined them. Like they protested them. They wrote articles about them in the Toronto Star. And because people like me said nothing, we're like, yeah, whatever. It's just a one-off thing. This stuff was allowed to grow.
Yeah, it's a very astute observation, man. Because I feel the same about myself. Like, what were we doing? And that's when you stand back and you realize just how phenomenally crazy everything is nowadays. You gotta thank yourself, because were you pushing back against this, or did you just shut your mouth and go along with it? Because most of us did. And I'm not faulting us in the sense that I want us to, feel guilty about it. We got to change. We have to start normalizing opposition to this, and we have to speak very bravely and passionately, especially about some of these ones that are damaging to the children, like the biggest one, the transgender issue. Like this is all over the world. This is being walked back. There's a lot of detransitioners. There's a large community of people that were led down this path, this detrimental path, and now they're seeking legal retribution. And I mean, that's when you're going to see doctors and psychologists start to get away from this stuff, when there starts to be repercussions for their errors.
Well, yeah, there was that case. Was it recently that someone got awarded $2 million for detransitioning? And it's just sad that the way I see it, it's not that there's a $2 million case that will end the detransitioning or the trans movement. I think the decision was made like, all right, trans isn't going to work. So you court justice, you can go ahead and issue this. Like, they say politics is downstream from culture. Sometimes, or all the time, the bench is downstream from culture as well.
Yeah, 100%. And this particular issue has a social contagion aspect to it. Just like bulimia did, the cutting phenomena of the 90s. The more press this receives, the more people are putting this in impressionable people's way, the more people that start to get attracted to this ideology. I'm a firm believer. I think no matter what happens politically, I think we're going to see society pull back from this because there's too much good information getting out. There's too many examples of this gone horribly wrong. And let's be honest, the people that were truly gender dysphoric prior to the mania regarding it, they lived their lives. Like it wasn't affecting them. There wasn't like no way for them to exist. They were existing just fine. And then this starts to become pushed in the culture, and the algorithms just amplify this social contagion aspect.
I was watching a Mel K episode from 2023, and this is during the Biden administration. And she said back then, she goes, transgenderism, this trans ideology is on its way out. And the next big thing that the state's going to use is civil strife amongst different races. And she predicted that they're going to bring in all these immigrants. And that's my fear. Like we're focused on transgenderism. Now it's a bigger problem in Canada than the US. We get rid of it. The state doesn't care. They'll just move on to the next issue. They will let JP and Peyman waste another 5 years of their lives.
Yeah, it's the balkanization and the racial conflict is a big deal, man. Because it's like I say, like if you wanted to efficaciously preserve Canada's national heritage, that should have been started in the 1970s when you started to see like we have such a population of different people now, different races. I mean, I'm not a multiculturalist. I think that term is ludicrous. I think it's been extremely detrimental. But Canada is a multiracial country. We have a lot of different races that both of their grandparents were born here. That's my criteria now. Like, were both of your grandparents born here? Okay, you're a Canadian. And that's a big deal because that's a big question. But I mean, yeah, I see the same thing. I seen it coming. Anyone, you don't even have to be Mel K and be well versed in the conspiracy literature to have seen this coming. It's like me and you and I had a private conversation recently, and I was saying like the largest causational aspect of civil unrest in history, when you read history, is population displacement. Like an influx of people, like migration culturally. This occurred in America during the Great Depression when a lot of people moved up into the northern states and the big cities. This happened with the Black community in America as well. They moved up into the cities, and this causes civil strife. Now, this is America. I mean, as different as Black Southerners might have been from Black Northerners and white Northerners. I mean, there was still some cultural cohesion there. When you're bringing in people from different countries and cultures and religions, and like having large ethnic neighborhoods and large ethnic enclaves in our cities of like, especially regarding Islam, you start to see a lot of problems immediately emerge.
I'm reminded of when I was in Azerbaijan and I was working there. I used to do network engineering. And there was this Chechen guy that came into their country and he committed a crime. I can't remember if the crime was murder or sexual assault, but they rounded him up and they immediately executed him. And the sentiment at the time was, you come into our country, you respect our laws, or you suffer the consequences. It's the opposite in Canada. It's like, oh, this poor guy, he sexually assaulted 3 minors. Let's give him 6 months less a day so he doesn't get deported. Like, no, bring back the death penalty.
Well, again, you're seeing this progressive. I'll be polite and say progressive leaning in our judiciary. I remember when this was a couple of years ago. I read an article that the Trudeau government sent a letter to all the justices of Nova Scotia, all the judges sitting in Nova Scotia, saying to consider being easier or more lenient on Canadians of African descent. Like, I mean, this runs counter to what we want from a legal system. We want impartiality. We want it to be, as fair as it can be, not predicated on giving people disparate results relative to their immutable characteristics. Like, this is really bad territory we're going down, and we're seeing it again. Not to go back to the conspiracy realm, but we're seeing this all across Europe. And you're seeing it, Europe, especially the UK, is far ahead of Canada with this agenda. I think native-born British people are now in the minority in the UK. That's true, though, man. It's like
I was in Brick Lane, which is a suburb in London, for Halloween once, and I was there with my girlfriend. Holy crap, man. Like we thought we were going to be lynched by the East India mob. It's like not a single white person to be seen.
Yeah, and the East Indian communities in London have integrated far better than the Islamic ones. Like that's where you're seeing a lot of
That's true.
the Pakistani the rape gangs and the grooming gangs. Like this is a real thing.
Well, I mean, India, at least they were under the British Empire, mind you. Indians, they didn't really receive fair treatment from the Brits for like 250 years, but they did integrate a little bit better with the Brits. I agree.
Well, it's Islam by its nature as a religion. Now, potentially, I'm biased. I'm Catholic, but it has there's a political element to Islam. They want Sharia law. That's a big aspect of their faith. They have a religious conviction to influence politics, and we don't see that in other religions and other faiths.
Well, like I look at religion, I like religion. Technically, it's a subset of culture, but it's like a super culture. It's like a big chunk of your culture, and it's just something that won't change that quickly. So if you have a Christian community in Canada, which is what it was, and you start bringing in all these Muslims, you're bound to lead to conflict. Like those, they're not going to mix.
Well, I mean, it's relevant to mention Iran presently, which you have some insight regarding. I mean, this was a coalition between left leaning Iranians and Islam, and that's what we're seeing in the West right now. The same thing. It's like war makes for strange bedfellows. I mean, what do they have in common? They want to overthrow the society. Beyond that, there's nothing. But it's something that we've seen occur. Like Canada and the West should be very leery of this. This is a huge issue.
Yeah, this whole queers for Palestine thing, it reminds me of the Spanish Civil War, where like the communists and the anarchists would work together. You're like, what do you guys have in common? You guys are polar opposites.
Mhm. Well, they have a mutual enemy, like a mutual force that they want, which would have been the nationalists, right? And that
Yeah.
this is what you see. You see these different subsects group together to influence and have a stronger voice. And you're seeing this with the left in Canada, in all of the West. I won't just speak of Canada. In all of the West, you're seeing the left and Islam together, and it should be concerning to people, more concerning than it seems to be.
It's definitely, it doesn't seem very concerning to most people. I want to go to Alice Not Woke. She's basically saying they're teaching kids how to use drugs safely. And the reason I bring this up, maybe it's a departure from what we're talking about, but I always thought, I was naive. I figured if people are going to do drugs, it's better if they get it from the government, where you're guaranteed, you know, that it's safe, hence the safe supply, than getting it from a drug dealer. The problem is when you decriminalize these things, you're endorsing them, and that's a stepping stone to encouraging them, which is what we're seeing in schools.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I used to think along the same lines until I seen it implemented. Legal drugs are an absolute and utter nightmare. It's diabolical, but it's funny because you see a similar, like when they say they want to teach children about sexual education, and when they wanted to teach children about safe sex, that it was kind of in some way condoning or encouraging it. Where in other times it was like abstinence is what was taught to children. Of course, you shouldn't be be doing that. And they're, oh well, that's unrealistic. Kids are going to do it. Some kids are, but we should still put a premium on what we want kids to do. The ideal path, which would be delaying sexual intercourse. I know in this culture it's so broken that seems just crazy, but I mean that's the way to go for sure.
Yeah, it's an erosion of parental rights. Thomas Sowell, who's just so good at articulating ideas, he said, you know, your parents are no longer able to determine when kids find out about sex, under what circumstances, and what their moral implications are of having sex. And he goes, you can't, with the compulsory education laws, you can't just take your kid out of school, and most people can't afford private school. So that's how they lock you down.
Yeah, education, public education, or a lot of people refer to it as mandatory state education, is one of the biggest problems we're facing. That has the most direct radicalizing effect or ideological subversive effect. Because I mean, if you're teaching kids things that in our curriculum in Canada, that it's baked into it, we have all this critical theory, reducing people to their immutable characteristics and categorizing them. We have all this gender ideology, which comes from like really bad postmodernist philosophy called social constructivism. Like this is all, again, it's normalized. You have to step back a little bit to garner some perspective, but this is nuts. We're literally teaching the children lies.
Who was that loser neighbor in George Orwell's 1984? I think it was O'Brien's neighbor or Winston's neighbor, the one that got ratted on by his own child.
I remember. I definitely ain't going to conjure the name up.
Yeah, this is like that. Like that was the extreme element where the child is ratting on the parents, but just the precursor to that is the schools are teaching the children lies, and then, the parents, they're helpless to stop it.
Yeah, this is something you see in all authoritarian societies. There's some people within the society, the only metric they can compete on is with compliance. They can be more compliant than you. And you see this, I reference this frequently when the Berlin Wall fell and the people got into the Stasi headquarters. They were going to have a look at the files and see who was a state informant. Maybe they could do something legally to have some retribution for that or deliver some justice for that. But I mean, they found out quite quickly that it was like 2/3 of the population was ratting on the other 1/3, or like half. It was like, it was just too much. They just had to leave that alone. And this is a feature you see once the guy, we've seen this through COVID to provide a more clear example that people can associate with the concept. We've seen how many people were in a rush to like, oh, you don't got your mask on. This mass compliance thing, this feature goes over people and it overtakes their better faculties, and they start just pushing and adhering to these narratives. It's really disconcerting.
It's mob mentality. Why don't we go? There's a very serious question, and then we can go to the next topic, which was the importation of mercenaries. Where is she? Clown World had a question for you. Here we go. JP, now that John Cleese quote tweeted you, will you still talk to us?
It's funny. It's like I was saying to Peyman, I was lucky. I had a few big accounts quote tweet me in the past, like Alex Jones, Jimmy Dory quote tweeted me a few times. I can't recall some of the other big accounts, but this was like was totally relative to my followers. I wouldn't have the followers if it wasn't for those big reposts. But when John Cleese did, I mean, it didn't have the same effect as like when Alex Jones did in the past. It goes to show the change in the algorithm. It just doesn't do much.
Man, before we get to the next topic, I have an eye on the viewers. They have to be suppressing us. I don't know how. I shared with you the graph that I put together of all of our viewership from when we launched PST. We got like thousands of viewers within 3 episodes, and then it fell off a cliff. And I ran it through ChatGPT, and he's like, "You're not." ChatGPT said to me, "He's like, you're not crazy. This has happened to a lot of people, especially with political shows."
Yeah, 100%. And we were getting hammered by the algorithm before this change with X. Like now you can't live stream. You have to physically share the link, and it doesn't get the same viewership. When it would just automatically post the stream to your X account, more people seemingly saw it and were able to watch it. I noticed the same thing. I had a show today with Jonathan Bahai. We had 130 live viewers. Usually I get 600, no problem. Like that's a low average, really.
Yeah, the suppression is real. See if there's anything in the comments before we move on. JT, same as promoting abstinence. Attempting to normalize homosexuality is also ridiculous. Accepting it is one thing, but normalizing it is an affront to reality. Let me comment on this first, and then I'll throw it to you. This is a very sensitive subject, and I've tried bringing it up, and people, they feel uncomfortable or they get angry. But people don't want to make a connection between feminism, homosexuality, and transgenderism. And I tell people, like to me, if I don't really see a difference morally between transgenderism and homosexuality. It's against the norm. It's just whether you accept it, or I call it tolerate it, or whether you actively endorse it. And we've gone towards actively endorsing all of these things.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I have a traditional Catholic sentiment on it. I don't believe homosexuality is an identity. I think it's a proclivity. And I don't necessarily want it taught to my children. I could say that honestly. And that's it. That's a traditional Catholic view. And I have no problem with people that might have this proclivity. Like there's a lot of misconceptions with Christians and especially Catholics relative to homosexuals. Like, you love the sin or you hate the sin. And it's not just not normal. It doesn't fly in the face of normalcy. It flies in the face of a religion that is the foundational moral framework for the West. So I think the slippery slope argument at this point is seemingly right. Like, can we confirm that now? It was a slippery slope because we've slipped down the slope at this point.
It was very slow. It was very slippery. The slope was definitely slippery. Yeah, Patricia, who, by the way, she's the one that made the intro for us. So thank you, Patricia. Trauma and fear makes the acceptance of propaganda and state-sponsored services easier to embrace. How do we fight the emotional trauma and fear cycle? Do you want to take a crack at this?
It's a good question, but I think it's relevant to mention the declining birth rates. I don't necessarily think they're entirely economical. I think it's like the situation we're in, the stress people are under. I heard someone, it was actually a leftist that made this point in a video clip recently, and it's just been stuck in my head ever since I heard it. You have to abuse a mammal extensively in order for them to stop reproducing. Like, this usually only happens in a zoo when the animals are kind of controlled, when they're in a controlled environment, when they lose their agency. You see a lot of mammals specifically refuse to reproduce. And we're seeing that with Western man right now. So I definitely don't think it's a good thing. My answer at the end of the day, and it sounds like a bit of a cop out, but for me, it's a true conviction. I think Christ is the answer. I think return to Christianity, 100%. That's what gives us the, I don't know, the stability, the strength, the perseverance, the kind of like the tools to actually find a way to continue on, right? Like, what's the point if there's no God, if there's no meaning, if moral relativism is the case? I mean, and I think this is one of the biggest things that are fueling the depression rates in Canada and America as well.
You know, I always grew up secular, so I skirt the religious issue and I try to emphasize things that religion really is. And I go back to what Randy Hillier said. Like, he was trying to explain that Canadians had a purpose. He did it through Christianity. But what he was saying is, you know, you have a man who makes money, who buys a house that's debt free, and with his wife, they have an enterprise called a family, and they have control and agency. And in Canada, everyone's in debt, and when you're in debt, you're I guess you're in fear, as you mentioned, Patricia. So they're very easily controllable. We're not in control of our own destiny.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's definitely accurate.
It took me a while to figure that out because her question was kind of poorly worded. Sorry, Patricia. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to move on to the second one?
Yeah, it's a big one. I mean, it's funny when you said it, like, yeah, we'll move on to our next topic, which is mercenaries in Canada. It's like, again, I have to speak to how normalized all this lunacy is. Like, that's crazy. That's what we're doing. That's the answer for the Carney government right now. They want to staff our military with foreigners that are professional military people. Like, this is nuts.
Yeah, earlier somebody was mentioning how that's how Rome fell. They were referring to something else, but this is another way that Rome fell. And it's, yeah, you know, there's three really important things that a state, a government has to do in no particular order. One of them is the judiciary. That they have to have that. The other one is law enforcement. You should have that. You can get away with private detectives, but you should have law enforcement. The third one is the military. Now, you could outsource law enforcement like the Americans did. You know, the Irish took over policing in the East. You could technically put them in the courts and you can vet them, kind of, but that would lead to bad things. But the moment that you outsource your military, like it's freaking game over, man. Like you're saying that you can't take care of your own nation.
Yeah, and just the implications are fairly obvious, but I have to say it for people that aren't as cynical as me, perhaps. The reason they seem to be wanting to do this, and it's the same thing you're seeing with the diversification of our police forces, is I think they want people that will follow orders without compunction. They won't have any moral connection or cultural connection to the Canadians because, like, clearly our government is going down an authoritarian path. So, in order to be effectively an authoritarian government, you need an apparatus that's going to impose your will upon the people. And I don't think the Canadian Armed Forces, as it stands, full of, I mean, Canadians. There's already a lot of foreigners in our arms, people that weren't born in Canada. But and it's the same thing you've seen with the gun confiscation scheme. There was a lot of police unions and RCMP unions that were just like, we're not going to do that. That goes against our constitution. It goes against our charter rights, and we're not going to do that. But I think that's what they want to get rid of. They want to diminish that sentiment. People having some principles and connection and convictions in these realms specifically.
Look, you're right, and it's one way to more easily get the soldiers to put the boot on the necks of the Canadians. There's something deeper. Uh, it's something about these legislators. So the vetting process, the candidates they let in for these positions in the political parties, these are people that grew up in an urban center, and their concept of Canada is different than yours, JP, or mine. They grew up in an apartment complex where things are transient. Neighbors come, neighbors go. You don't talk to your neighbors. It doesn't matter if your neighbor is black, white, Christian, Muslim, Hindu. So to them, extending that to the military, it's not really an issue. And in fact, if that's what the environment they grew up in, it's going to be a benefit. Like we have clueless people in positions of authority.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think a good point is the reason that the numbers are down in the military is some of the shit they're pushing. Like, there's a lot of white Canadians that just got out once they seen people like being unfairly treated. This equitable representation. Again, I want to put this in context. Like, we're reducing people to their skin color, and then we're giving them advantages based upon that. From my understanding, that would be prejudice there. That's a massive injustice right there in and of itself. But you're seeing it, and it's normal, and this is the cultural Marxism aspect of it.
There's something else to this as well. Like, if you're going to be racist, you're supposed to be racist in support of your tribe. If you're a father, you're supposed to be prejudiced in support of your family, not in opposition to it. If you want to violate the law and you want to get a couple of extra square feet onto your property, and you move the property line, you move it into the advantage of your family, not the advantage of the neighbor across the street. And they've done the opposite. This is what this whole anti-white rhetoric is.
Yeah, it's like a national loathing, self-loathing, and it's widespread, man. And I think this has philosophical origins. It goes back to like Rousseau, and like Western man is this irredeemable aberration, and that's where the noble savage motif comes from, that archetype. Like other untarnished, they were yet to be tarnished by Western civilization, which is some kind of abnormality or aberration from a. And this is what we see. It's almost like Avatar. That's like the premise of Avatar. That's how they view it. It's this perpetuating this noble savage motif, and on the antithesis of that philosophy is the irredeemable Westerner.
We're bashing women again. Alice Not Woke says women are the worst tyrants with this anti-family agenda. Somebody made a comment earlier. If you want to comment on that while I find it.
Well, it's the devouring mother. It's like I say, you're seeing this reflexive empathy. Women. I mean, in psychological literature, that's an archetype. That's a Freudian motif. The devouring mother. That love, that reflexive empathy that has a deteriorating effect on the children.
Here we go. I found it. It's again from Alice Not Woke. Women didn't vote originally because it was the family interest that voted, not the separate female. I think the feminist movement, well, I think the feminist movement has divorced women from their husbands, and they've been wedded now to the state.
Yeah, it's one of the big roots of the destabilization of the family unit, as we get to frequently, of religion and organized religion, of the patriarchy as a whole, which has always been misrepresented. Like it's not like man was always subjugating women and women needed to be liberated. Now, in some regards, anecdotally, that was the case, but that's not the story of history. That's a very disingenuous interpretation. It's not very generous at all. It's life was really hard and we did our best. And men and women had traditional roles and we functioned in a far more cohesive way than we do presently. So
I've said this 1,000 times. This war, the reason that there's a war against the family, because the family unit is a decentralized form of government. And if you want to create a centralized, authoritarian, top-down form of government, you go after the family unit.
yeah, you've seen this in with the Bolsheviks. You've seen this with Mao. It's the same premise. We'll live communally, one big family. You know, it's not your children, it's the children. Like it goes against all of our instincts, and that's what I say. It's funny with Marxism being imposed. I'm a firm believer that Marxism ends up with a fascist government, as Marx himself said, the dictatorship of the proletariat. But yeah, I think that's relevant too.
I'm reminded of Michael Scott from The Office. These are just words; they don't mean anything. These words, they're all blending together: fascism, Marxism, communism. It's like you almost can't use them anymore.
Yeah, it's just like liberal. Liberalism is
Conservative.
probably
Yeah.
is has probably been one of the most distorted terms. Liberal comes from the root term, I believe it's Greek, liber, and that literally translates to freedom. That's the key. And now liberalism is used as a euphemism for authoritarianism. It's wild.
It's crazy. It's upside down world. John Vleeman, going back to the military thing, do we think this is a scare tactic to get more Canadians to apply? Me personally, I don't think so. And the reason is they hate Canadians. These people hate white people. So I think they just want to get the white people out, the ones with integrity, the good Christian roots.
Yeah, 100%. That's my interpretation of it. And I mean, it's funny because one of the big things people were noticing with the mass migration, it's like, oh, it's a majority military aged males. Now, I mean, they're not even hiding that anymore. They want
Yeah.
military age, they want military experienced males to come into your country. Like this is not good, especially like I say, when you put it in reference with our government right now and what they're doing. It's like every time the government endeavors to disarm the populace, it's because they're going to do something that we would have shot them for. that's just the truth.
You know, as much as I hate Joe Biden, and he's probably in a vegetative state right now, but he must be so mad. Like he tried his darndest to get people to come into America illegally, and he looks up north, and Trudeau's just bringing them in legally, no problem whatsoever. And now, same thing here. Like they tried to bring in military age men, and they got all sorts of pushback in Canada. People are like, "Yeah, this is fine. Well, what could possibly go wrong?"
This is like in the UK as well. Like the boats never stop. No matter who they would vote in, the boats didn't stop. People kept coming. So this is how you see this was something that was coordinated by NGOs, by large powerful interests that were facilitating the mass migration into Western democracies. And in America, they had to do it differently. In Canada, they just, hey, we're going to have a temporary worker program. We're going to have, all of these economic immigrants come in. We're going to have school systems like universities cater to foreigners to bring them in. So they were able to take advantage of legal apparatuses in order to accomplish their objectives. In America, they didn't have that luxury. So what did you see? You just seen a surge right across. Like when Biden was in, it was just wide open. The border was open, the southern border.
Yeah, that would be a good catchphrase for like a populist UK political party. The boats just won't stop.
Yeah.
The logo is just this speedboat with 400 people in it.
It's pretty crazy too when you think of the UK. Like this is an island we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like it's they're just obviously they want this to occur. That's the big thing. There's like they act like, oh, even Starmer still says that. He'll make speeches like, yeah, we're going to stop the illegal entry. It's like, no, you're not, dude. You could have did that easily. You're a fucking island.
They somebody special UK special forces guy, SAS, he gave a solution. They'll never, the political will is not there, but he goes, just declare a state of war and say we're being invaded, and the Royal Navy, they have the right to shoot on these vessels, or if they want to show mercy, they can take them hostage and then destroy the vessels. They can.
I fear, Peyman, that's the only way we get out of this. I fear we have to have some leaders with some, what can I say politely, some conviction and some principles that are willing to do this. We're going to like potentially Insurrection Act or habeas corpus suspended in America to actually rid some of the communists, the international fascists, the NGOs, some of the people that are established, even some of the judiciary that's just stacked with radical activists. How do we get out of this when the Supreme Court of Canada is supporting it all? When they've got their pieces, they got their players in positions of influence. There's no way to get out of this. I don't think that's occurred to a lot of people in a very profound way. Same with Europe. It's like this has been some kind of a cultural revolution. And we're coming to a point where it's potentially going to get kinetic now, or they're going to win, one or the other.
Well, as far as America, I agree with you, and they've demonstrated that through Donald Trump. They elected a populist, more populist president, and they are pushing back against a lot of things. But they're doing it specifically through the military because that's the only avenue that's really left, as you mentioned, the courts. So they do have to do something with the Insurrection Act. I just don't see anything like that in Canada. Like, we don't have that avenue. Both our political parties are captured. The Senate is stacked. The courts are full of leftist activist judges. The tribunals are even worse. Our military, all the hardcore Christians, hardcore traditionalists, they're all gone. What do we do?
And this is very relevant to them bringing in foreigners now to get in the military. So it's like everything you said is accurate. What could even possibly go against? What could be an adversary to this order that's locked Canada down? This regime, I'll go as far as saying, and that's, well, the military could, hypothetically. So now they're trying to get rid of that too. I mean, it's like I said, man, and it's not a defeatist thing. I'm hopeful, but I think logically and reasonably, rationally, I think Canada's real hope right now lies with America in some way, pressuring us, and they got their own problems. So I mean, we might be fucked. Pardon the vulgarity.
England, the UK, through MI6, they're trying to figure out a way to put essentially terrorism. They're trying to put some subversive elements in Ukraine so that when Russia takes over, they can go around and they can start assassinating soldiers and law enforcement. It's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to think that that's what Carney is trying to do with Canada. I mean, they've already got China in here. They're, buried in like a tick. They're trying to infiltrate the military. He's making it so that if and when America takes over Canada, they're going to have a very hard time governing this place.
So this is a common strategy, Peyman. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Operation Gladio. I read the Paul Williams book, I believe it was, but it talks about the stay behind units. So after World War II, they had some hardcore Nazis working with the intelligence, probably M16 or whatever. What the premise was is they're well armed. They have an objective to be a barrier against the Bolsheviks at the time, like the communist Russians. So they had all kinds of these Gladio units, and they had orders. And I believe these stay behind units are already in lots of our countries. Like, I think there's a large discrepancy between what the ruling class actually does and what we think they do.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the IRGC, for example, and the Chinese police stations. I just don't think Canadians, like JT is in the comments, he understands this. Some of us, actually our audience probably does, Peggy does. Most Canadians don't understand just to such a, like, how little Mark Carney actually represents the people of Canada. He doesn't view this as his country. He's just viewing this as like, one of the countries on the board of risk.
Yeah, 100%. I often phrase it this way. This man didn't leave his coffin in Europe and travel to this resource/labor colony to help the peasantry. And if you think he did, like that's his premise, then you're just woefully uninformed, to the point of just you're naive. But Carney referred. I remember famously. I mentioned this to you recently, but there's a video that surfaced from him, and someone in the press was asking him, like, "Are you going to run for Canadian politics?" And he was very smug about it. And he said, "I'll never forget this." And he actually repeated it once. He said, "Yeah, maybe I'll just be a circus clown." Is that what you want me to be, a circus clown? It's like, he knows this is bread and circuses. He knows it's a performative role. Why? Why would they go through the trouble? Well, to provide low resolution Canadians with the illusion of participatory governance. That's what politics is in the West. It's bread and circuses.
I want to mention something. I was talking to another gentleman in Iran, and I was asking him about the situation, and he basically said, I said, if America invades, do you think that the population will rally around the Islamic regime? And he goes, no. He said, that time is long since passed. They've destroyed the economy, and the supreme leader is governing everything. My point is, what he was trying to say is that the government in Iran doesn't have legitimacy. It's very obvious that there's no way to vote these people out. In Canada, our government has the appearance of legitimacy, and the word they use to describe this appearance is democracy. That's why they throw that word around a lot. So when you say the illusion of participatory choice, you're being colorful in your language. They just call it democracy.
Yeah, and what you're referring to is like the consent of the governed. When you don't have the consent of the governed, then yeah, you're not going to have any loyalty. You're going to actually, in quite to the antithesis of that, you're going to be opposed to them. And I think, I don't think for a minute what we're told about Canada is true. Like, I don't trust the electoral process. I don't trust any of the polling. Like, everyone I talk to seems to be very much opposed. When you actually bring the topics up, they're opposed to a lot of what's going on in Canada. Now, we've referenced a lot of them are afraid to speak out against it, but I think we're being presented with a fictional reality. Like, oh, Canadians are just they're all supporting this. Like, that's what they do, right? They use their state media apparatus to misinform you and kind of create this false consensus. Oh, everyone loves what's going on in Canada. We're all just thrilled with it. And they use their influencers to do the same.
Well, yeah, you're right. They create a false consensus, but they try to make you doubt your own judgment. You're like, well, maybe I am wrong. Maybe we do have good healthcare.
Yeah, and that's the biggest function of it. And that helps to prevent people from speaking against it. Everyone's naturally, there's an experiment. I can't remember the individual nor the name of it, but I'll sloppily try to explain what I was going to say. It's where they have maybe. This is where they have a bunch of people come in, and there's like 3 lines. And one of the lines is like, they're clearly 3 different lines. One's longer, one's in the middle, and one's the smallest line. And everyone that goes in, they say the second longest line is the longest one. And that's very evidently false. But then the only person that's in the experiment is the last person to go. So the last person looks, everyone chose option B, and they choose option B too. And then they would ask these people, like 90% of the people that participated in this study chose that. And they said, well, I just thought maybe I was wrong. And that's what we're prone to do. You're prone to just think, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this. Everyone else is going. So that illusion of consensus is a powerful psychological tool for the elites.
I have a real problem with all of these experiments. It's all taxpayer money. Like, let's put some rats in a cage and let's observe them bang. And then maybe 30 years from now, 2 podcasters will reference it as if it's legitimate.
Yeah, the state doing this is definitely laughable, but this is where we're
at. Let's see. Go to the questions a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Alice Not Woke says, hey, I'm a woman, so I can tell the truth. Fair enough. Clown World, did I miss a woman bashing? Well, I called it woman bashing, but woman criticizing. And that's how they got them to go to work and split the income in half. So everyone is broke and the state is raising their children. That's true. It's accurate.
Yeah, 100%. We've discussed this ad nauseum at this point. Like, this is something we arrive at frequently, and it's true. That's number one. Jordan Peterson mentioned this too. A lot of things that kept women out of the workforce was technology. Like when you started to see contraceptives be more prevalent in society, you've seen more women be able to. When you started to see better services, like better faculties for women to use, you've seen more women work. But the biggest catalyst was World War II. It was necessary to keep the production of the country up, and then it was normalized right away. You had like they use their media apparatus, like their TV shows and stuff too. Like I remember I Love Lucy and all these shows back in the day. Like they're working now. The housewife is now immersed in the workforce, and they're normalizing this through these means.
Yeah, who was it that wrote a book, War is a Force That Gives Life Meaning? War is a very powerful force for change. And the moment that we manage to get off fiat banking, off a gold standard where money can't just leave the country and you just print money. And I think it was, what's that? Napoleon, the first one that did it. So you start getting these massive armies. This is not like the Battle of Cannae in Rome, where you just have 50,000 people on both sides. Whoever's left standing wins. This goes on for a very long time. They can finance it for super long, and the entire country is mobilized for war. And then you get women into the workforce.
Yeah, it's amazing how World War II kind of led to them amassing all of this power. When you look back into it and you read into it a little speculatively or conspiratorially, you can kind of see like here's a statistic. I'll say it this way: there was the Federal Reserve was established in 1913 in America, and we seen World War I. The first time we then have a world conflict, immediately the year after. And another statistic, it was a Warburg sitting at the Bank of America, the head of the bank of the central bank in America, and a Warburg sitting in the head of the Bank of Berlin, of Germany at the time. So I mean, it's pretty crazy when you look at it. Like, what happened, man? Did like an elite class really just absolutely subvert all of our institutions, and we're essentially like debt-ridden wage slaves on some kind of a tax farm? Seems like
I
it.
think so. You read that? Yeah. No pushback from me. JT, they've been wedded to the state, and conveniently a plethora of female jobs are within the coercive state. Double whammy. It's you're right, but it's not that they're wedded to the state. It's like a drug addiction. They've become addicted to the state because the state guarantees them their steady supply of jobs. This is the whole thing about DEI. It's like a form of nepotism.
Yeah, 100%. That's a real issue in Canada. Like, how can you vote against your own interests? Even if you don't really like what the party in power is doing, if it's affecting your bottom line to vote that way, you're likely not going to. And this is not a bug. This is a design. This is a feature for them.
There's a whole bunch of women bashing. Let's skip over those. John Fleming, yeah, isn't that what we need to convince the normies? We are in a revolution and we need to stand up. I think he's talking about, you said we need strong leadership.
Well, that's for sure, 100%. And we need smart leadership too, because we don't want to whip people into a fever pitch. We very much want to be controlled in this. So we need well-tempered leaders that aren't going to perpetuate the insanity right now, because I think that could be the case, and that's a big concern of mine, is we get that charismatic person that's going to lead us in a very wrong direction.
Sorry, I'm just reading all these questions. Yeah, I was thinking about something Derek Sloan said. He said, let me get this comment out of the way. A country has to be more than just a GDP. Like, it has to be based on something. And Canada is not based on anything. It's based on GDP. That's the first problem. The second problem is the concept of GDP is wrong. Ever since I've been alive, Canada's GDP per capita has been growing. Ever since I've been alive, Canada's quality of life has been going down. That metric is wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is something I reference a lot. It's like we're not so much the people, the sovereign citizens of a nation, as much as the indentured employees to a corporation, and we're all in debt to the company store. That's the difference. We have become this is a commerce district. Our nations are commerce districts. That's what's unique about them. It's not the people anymore. The nation isn't predicated on the land and the people on that land. It's predicated on the rules for commerce, essentially. And it's been balkanized now to the point where it's a post-national moment for Canada. Like I can't see us lasting much longer.
Well, we don't stand on it for anything. Like, I don't know if my guess is Trudeau was an idiot and he just did what he was told to do by Carney. But if
Mhm.
he knew what he was doing, then he's a genius because he single-handedly destroyed this country. Like,
Yeah, these people are like the singer for a band, man, that doesn't write the songs. These people are just are actors in front, especially Trudeau. He's the best example to lend credence to that. Like, what world do you think we're living in where someone like Trudeau actually wields power? There's people in place that are not going to allow that. I'm sorry, that's just the reality.
who was it? Colonel McGregor was speaking of all of these heads of state of Europe. Justin Trudeau, I mean, he's a legacy, but Macron apparently was working as a teller in a bank, and some billionaire found him, and they're like, "Yeah, we could groom this guy."
Mm.
And the same thing, a billionaire found Zelensky famously as a comedian, and they figured they could groom him. If you have people who have no leadership skills, they're much easier to groom. Like you get 10 years runway out of these people, before they realize, holy shit, I'm harming my own people.
Yeah, there's different apparatuses for this. There's like the London School of Economics. There's the Rhodes Scholarship is a big thing. Chrystia Freeland is presently at the head of that organization. That's one of the way that, and they groom future leaders. Why? Because there's a clandestine oligarchy essentially that rules the world. I'm sorry, man. I know what that sounds like. Even right now, for me to say it, I understand the sensational nature of that. But with that said, I don't know how anyone could interpret it otherwise presently.
No, I agree with you. LSE is a big problem. The Rhodes Scholarship is another one. Ivy League, Harvard. They're going after Harvard hard in America right now.
Mm.
And I had a fantastic economic advisor during my campaign. He was pointing out, he's like, the Trump campaign knows that London School of Economics is a cesspool for these like MI6 Keynesian douchebags. So when Trump came in, they cleaned house. Like they got rid of anybody that was LSE.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Trump did that makes me still have a bit of faith in it all. Clearly, I don't think it's as we all initially hoped. There's still powerful forces that are like Trump's playing a very complex game, but I still just with some of the things he's doing, it still makes me believe that he is trying to go against this instantiated oligarchy.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem if people point out something that Trump is doing that's scary or problematic, like Peter Thiel. I don't know what the hell that guy's up to. But when people's Trump derangement syndrome clouds their judgment and they make it their life mission to find some reason to prove that this guy's Caligula, I'm just like, please get out of my way. Like we're struggling here. Right? You're not helping.
Yeah, I agree, and you see it a lot with people on the right now, especially in MAGA. They've lost all faith in Trump, and that seems to be like the big psyop from the British establishment. I'll say it. That's what it seems to be like. It seems like they're trying to influence the midterms, and I think that's their strategy. And you see this echoed with Carney. These international players are seemingly waiting. They're waiting and they're trying to mitigate the damage that he can do. And that's what they're doing. They're using everything they can to do so as well. They're using their compromised members of Congress on both sides of the political spectrum. They're using the subverted judiciary. That's the biggest thing they're using. And I mean, they're using their apparatuses for propaganda as well to push this.
Let me actually go check and see if anybody's commenting on the Substack. But you know who's the most susceptible for this? It's the boomers. And here's why. They look at somebody like Obama. It doesn't matter what he did. It's how he spoke that matters. They look at somebody like George H.W. Bush. It doesn't matter what he did. It's how he spoke that matters. And it's just so easy to just capture the boomers who have an inkling of Trump derangement syndrome.
This is why democracy is not necessary. It's becoming abundantly clear at this point of history that democracy isn't a very effective way of governing our societies. Like I know it's not a pure democracy. There's a constitutional monarchy in Canada. There's a constitutional republic in America and various forms of government. But I mean, the people are so, especially when you don't have the information, like the education, our curriculums have been subverted to like critical theory and all of this stuff. And then at the same time, the media class has been captured. So it's really like maybe we would have had better results with the electorate if we had been actually educating them and informing them on the relevant issues. But it seems like at this point, like people are just too stupid to have that much influence in the nation.
I use a word that's far more harsh than stupid, but I agree. Peggy, I wish the entire West realized we are being ruled by mafia.
That's, dude, I've been saying this a lot lately. Don't get it out of your head that the government is like the mafia. The mafia is like the government. The government, like they came up with this model. It's protection, like it's a racket, man. It just is. There's no other way. You could make an argument that it's necessary, but criminals can make an argument that some organizing apparatus is necessary for them too. But it's undeniable that that's the premise they work on. They have like a monopoly on violence, and it's imposed on us.
JP, without government, how are they going to collect 50% of your taxes? Who's going to collect your taxes without government, bro?
It's crazy, man. Like the taxes were fucking, they're just stealing all of our money, man. And no one, like our ancestors went to like war over like mild infractions. You look at America like it was a tea tax, taxation without representation. You know, that's it.
Forget America, Ontario. I don't know if it was a premium. He overstepped his boundaries. The people lynched him. They like beat the crap. People had stones in Canada back.
The sexual transitions. There was a case in Ontario where we're actually going to, the taxpayers on the hook to have someone have a vagina and a penis surgically somehow. I don't want to know the details of that, but that's real.
I think I've seen this horror movie before.
That's like the human centipede.
Oh God. Johan Jansen says, great podcast. This podcast is preaching to the converted. We need good debate with those commentators that have strong opposing views. Canada's opposition being a prime example. Even if debate is non-existent, also needs fundamental change.
Yeah, that's very well. We can't get anyone to come on and debate us from that disagree seemingly. And I mean, they're keeping voices like ours suppressed, sir. That's just undeniable. Like I'm not. It's like Peyman said. He ran our stats through artificial intelligence just to make sure he wasn't just being crazy. It's like we're seeing this enforced. Even it's like I say jokingly. I say this very facetiously, but if I had picked a random corner in Halifax and went there every evening and spoke, I would have a bigger following than I would have putting all this effort into doing podcasts and being on social media.
Just hold up a sign at an intersection. We're getting to the end. JT says Christia freebased, groomed by Soros. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about Christia Freeland. I don't know exactly how she was groomed.
Rhodes Scholarship.
Yeah,
same with true. Clinton and Obama. Like this is such a big factor to this.
Clown World perished this thought. I don't even want to know what would happen if Trump died. This is a good one. Obama took 15 minutes to say something that can be said in 1 minute. I remember I was watching, me and my girlfriend, we were watching an Obama speech. And then at the end of that, she turned to me. She's like, I feel dumber after listening to that.
Yeah, and that's the performative nature of our politics. I noticed this when I was a little kid. Like I'm watching these people and I'd ask my parents questions and stuff like, oh, this is, and I'm like, well, they're being insincere. This is a fucking act. I could see that as a child. Like, I don't know if I'm just more observant in that regard, but like these people aren't real. These people are presenting themselves as this, never did a controversial thing in my life. I'm a good Christian. I'm an honest guy. Like it's bullshit. It's a facade. And I mean, I can't believe that the electorate in Canada and America and anywhere doesn't realize this. Now they did with Trump. Trump broke that archetype big time. He devastated it. Very brash, not an eloquent individual, but it's a performance. Obama was an actor. That's what I'm trying to say. Like these people are political constructs. They're not politicians. They don't represent their constituency. They represent powerful networks.
So we're at the 90-minute mark. Clown World, I have a suggestion. We're not taking suggestions right now. How about ending each show with a positive thing, even a cameo of your dogs? I mean, I can go if you want first. By the way, we're not going to do this Clown World every episode, but this is a special episode for you. I think it feels like we're getting our asses handed to us because we haven't, nobody's in handcuffs, but we've been laying the foundation for the last 6 years. We were children 6 years ago, and now we understand what words like common law, rule of law, what these words mean, what justice means, property rights, Westminster system versus a republic. And with every single crisis, like Tumbler Ridge, Cowichan land ruling, it's going to, at some point, I think Canadians will step up.
I couldn't have said it better, but I will endeavor to. It's like my euphemism, my analogy. It's like a cup. Watching the Canadian electorate wake up over the last few years is like watching a vessel being slowly filled with rainwater. If you're observing this, it seems excruciatingly slow, but inevitably it reaches the breaching point, and then we see change. So, I mean, keep that in mind. It's laying groundwork for sure. That's what keeps me going every day. I'm going to keep swinging to the bitter end.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll have brighter days ahead. And to wrap this up, I'll give you the last word to you in a moment, JP. But we have an episode with Randy Hillier and the lovely Chelsea Hillier on Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So we're shifting over to a little bit of a later time. And we'd really appreciate if you guys could come join us. And if you have any questions, you can always put them to Randy or Chelsea. JP, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I want to do a little shameless self-plug here. I actually, at 1 p.m. on that same date on this Thursday, I have Bathsheba Vandenberg, who's an expert in international law and has some information relative to our topic tonight, which is the tribunal. So definitely I would like, if people want to tune in for that, that'll be a good episode for sure.
Will you be talking to her about how women are the prime problem in politics? And
I'm not touching that.
I'm just joking. She is a phenomenally intelligent woman, and I was blown away when I interviewed her.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to actually getting some of her insight relative to like she's a specialist in international law as well. So it's like, are we not breaking some convention things or something with some of the impositions in Canada? Like seemingly we should be. They're not written very well if we're not.
Yeah. All right. On that note, let's end the episode. JP, I'll see you on Thursday.
Yes, sir. Thanks for watching, guys.